All right, y'all, what's up? Good afternoon. Welcome to the podcast with Soul. Astigmatism in My Soul, Gumby Publishing. The podcast with Soul, Sean Xavier Gumby Jr., knowing myself, Sean Xavier Gumby Sr., in any way wish to defame, slander, libel, or discredit anybody as it regards to the topic that I'm talking about today, which is the United States of America versus Dion Gatlin, which everybody knows is Cuffy. Um, and everything that I say is according to these court documents, which are public information on pacer.gov, or you can find them online. So, where I'm at today is the cross-examination of Tammy Cowins by Cuffy's attorney. Her name is Mrs. Trog, Trog. Very, very smart attorney, man. And there's four attorneys, there's four defense attorneys, because there's four defendants in this case. Cuffy, Andre Rush, Mr. Gibbs, and then another dude. Timothy Rush, Dion Gatlin, Andre Rush, and Gibbs. So there's four defense attorneys and two U.S. attorneys. And the way it looks is that each defense attorney is going to cross-examine her. And I think they've all gotten together to strategize that they're each going to attack different parts of her story. Like, not each attorney is going to focus on the entire story. I think each attorney is going to take a different piece. So Cuffy's attorney goes first, Ms. Trog, and she begins to attack Tammy's credibility and her financial situation. So, as we know, right, and this is key, right, and Cuffy's attorney alludes to this, right? She's asking in a roundabout way, like, why did you get Terry White busted? For what reason? Why? What was your motivation? Right? And we've already gone over in the other document where Jack Harvey, who was her controlling agent, right, says that she was the heart and soul of that case. And she was an unusual informant because she had no motivation. She wasn't a drug user. She wasn't trying to work off a case. We went through all of that in the other video, right? But because of her work, Terry White gets knocked off. Now, and she wasn't expecting to get a reward, right? She was just doing it on the strength. But why? Right? Now, come to find out, she was involved with Terry White for some years in a relationship, a sexual relationship. And when the relationship started to get funky, was when she began to cooperate against him, right? And she wakes up out of the blue, right? And just happens to, well, I'm going to read what it says, right? But let me just give you the backdrop. She's dealing with Terry White, and Terry White is asking her to take money off her credit cards or something he's selling weed or whatever he's doing, which ends up being a money laundering case on Terry White along with a weed conspiracy. And this is what she does. She wakes up one day out of the blue, and according to her, she's just feeling so guilty. She wakes up and she goes to Jack Harvey's office, right? And tells Jack Harvey, who is a DEA agent, right? I think I'm doing something wrong, right? Just out of the blue. And long story short, Terry White end up getting busted and getting sent to the federal prison, and Terry Cowins, who was involved with him, is the lead informant against him, man. So, Cuffy's attorney leads out. Man, when you started working for the DEA in 2009, that was under Jack Harvey, correct? She says, yes, Jack Harvey. And then Cuffy's attorney says, and then you stated on direct examination by the government that during that time you worked for Mr. Harvey, at least in 2009, that you had received no compensation. Is that a fair statement? That is correct. Your first compensation received from the DEA would be in 2011. Would that be a fair statement? Tammy Cowins, that would be a fair statement around that time. Cuffy's attorney. So when you were working on the Terry White case, if I may, you were working on it because you wanted to do the right thing. She says, correct. I went to Jack Harvey to discuss that I thought I may have done something wrong. Now, this is where she starts to play dumb when Cuffy's lawyer is asking very basic questions, nothing with big words, very straightforward questions. Cuffy's lawyer asks her, were you ever considered a confidential source for an affidavit in Mr. White's case? Meaning, the affidavit that was done to put electronic surveillance on Terry White, Cuffy's attorney is asking her, did you sign an affidavit in the Terry White case? She says, I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. She comes back, the lawyer. When you were working on Terry White's case, ma'am, were you working directly with agents with regards to the dissemination of information? Tammy Cowins says, this is her answer. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe could you reword it or rephrase it if you don't mind? So the lawyer says, were you working in Mr. White's case? Were you asked to make phone calls? And she says, I was already making phone calls. Were you asked to deliver any drugs or any money? She says, no. And his lawyer, Cuffy's lawyer, comes back. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. Was it mainly perhaps background information, ma'am? And she says, background information for what? For Mr. Harvey. Okay, you lost me again. I apologize. Just make it a little more direct so I can understand. I don't understand legal jargon. Sure. You were working on the Terry White case because you thought it was the right thing to do. She says, correct. What did you do in the Terry White case? The lawyer asked. Now this is an interesting part. Bear with me. What did you do in the Terry White case? Cuffy's lawyer asked. Basically, I had Terry White to confess that, and that was my motive per se, is for him to admit that I didn't know what I was doing in regards to getting money off my credit card, which he did. And I had that on a phone call where I dialed the number and turned the phone over while me and Terry White were riding out of town. He rode with me to go see Meech on a visit one day in the car. And he started talking about all his drug deals, etc., etc. So that's kind of how it happened. So here is Tammy Cowins not getting no compensation, just turning Terry White in for no reason other than she feels like she's doing the wrong thing right? When she's been around Big Meech, as we looked in other paperwork since 02, 03, and some of y'all say she was involved in a relationship with the other kid, Blue. So she know what they was doing, right? Well, she's been around that life. Check me out. She's been around that life, so she know, you know what I'm saying, about that life. But all of a sudden with this dude, when the relationship starts going bad, now you feel guilty about using your credit cards to help him. And you ain't getting no compensation from the government. Only until after the fact. And you're only doing this because you think it was the right thing to do. Yet, you calling on the phone. You dialing the number with this nigga in the car. Dude you was dealing with. You dial the number, put the phone down. And he's telling you everything that you already knew. On your way to go see Meech in prison. And you eventually end up with the life rights and power of attorney for Meech. And we still ain't learned what Meech's compensation was. Check me out. So Meech just up one day and say, yo, I feel like giving away power of attorney to you and my life rights. And I want to go over that part because they talk about that in here. Y'all got to bear with me. So my man gonna give you power of attorney and his life rights to make a movie just on the strength. I don't want nothing in return. You can have that. It don't sound right. And y'all can kind of understand the picture in my mind of where I'm going with this thing. Right? Then, this is Cuffy's attorney. Okay, now you were involved with Mr. White, man. Yeah, for a few years. And when you started assisting the DEA in 2009, had your relationship terminated? Sexually it had. But you were still friends with him? Yes. Now, the agent that you went to see in 2009 was Jack Harvey. Right. I was given Jack Harvey's name and number to call by a mutual friend in Atlanta. But from 2009 until 2011, you were never paid by the DEA. Is that correct? No, I wasn't. Did Mr. Harvey mention anything about an award related to Mr. White's case? He did right before he retired. He said, I'll put you in for a little reward. Did he give you an amount? No. So Harvey retires. I think Jack Harvey retires in 2011. By this time, Terry White is convicted, busted, and sent to prison for 8 years on a weed conspiracy and money laundering, I think. Now, Cuffy's attorney is getting at her about her financial situation, right? Her husband, Tammy Cowins' husband, gets killed in a car accident by an uninsured motorist. She gets 200 grand from the insurance company for the uninsured motorist, and then she carried 100 grand life insurance on him on her own, and then she got another 20 to 25 grand from her job to bury him. And at this time, she had about $100,000 in credit card debt. So she says. Cuffy's attorney is bringing all this up. Then Cuffy's attorney hits her with, boom. You ever saw this? She says, yeah, it's a bankruptcy. She files Chapter 7. Tammy Cowins filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy to wipe away all of the credit card debt. And then all of the cheese that she got from the insurance for the uninsured motorists and the life insurance, she buys a townhouse with it. She says that. Now, we all know that Tammy Cowins' credibility is shot, right? And we know in one instance, she says that in the affidavit, the initial affidavit that she signed, the sworn affidavit that she signed, that under penalties of perjury, imprisonment, she signed that Big Meech put her in touch with Suarez and Cuffy to do the deal. Right? And we also know from other paperwork that the first day Jack Harvey retires, and let me read it to you. When Mr. Harvey retired, this is Cuffy's attorney. When Mr. Harvey retired, you didn't automatically start working like the next day with Mr. Cromer, did you? She setting Cuffy's attorney is money, setting her up. You didn't start working immediately like the next day with Mr. Cromer, did you, ma'am? And Tammy Cowins says, Mr. Cromer reached out to me, as a matter of fact, the same day or the next day. I think there's an email to confirm that. And remember from the paperwork the day before, she said that when she spoke to Keith Cromer the first time, she asked him like, yo, what am I going to be doing? He said, yo, you going to be making phone calls. We just going to deal you strictly with Hispanics. So when you get them busted, they going to get deported. So you don't never have to worry about seeing them again. You going to be fine. You going to be safe. She like, all right, bet. And then she says, you going to be making phone calls, picking up money, picking up drugs. She like, all right, bet. And she says, if I bring you something big, Keith Cromer cuts her off mid-sentence, you going to make a lot of money. And then she says immediately thereafter, can I get Demetrius Flannery a time cut? We know that in the documents, in the Frank's hearing. This is before she changes her testimony, right? She doesn't change her testimony until the DEA in St. Louis starts posting, making public availability, making information public, and they see her name in the paperwork, and she starts getting calls from people telling her, we're going to kill you, right? And we're going to do something to Meech. This is when she changes her story, right? And it comes up later in the cross-examination by Ms. Traub, Cuffy's attorney. We already looked at it. She went to go visit Meech in Louisiana. She couldn't get to him, but when she talked to him, he told her, I don't want my name caught up in this mess, right? And this is what y'all be saying, right? I'm born 1969. I'm 55 years old. Sean G. I done dealt with a lot of women in my life. I done dealt with a lot of honeys in my life. Y'all be saying that this girl, Tammy Cowins, was doing this all on her own. Unbeknownst to Meech, she is using his name. She dropping his name in sworn affidavits. She's discussing his name with Keith Cromer, DEA agents. He already doing a 30 ball. Check me out. Check me out. He already doing a 30 ball. But this honey on her own, who Meech know done dealt with Terry White, supposedly dealt with Blue Da Vinci, is on her own because she feel like it, trying to get his time cut without him knowing, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. Ain't no honey that I dealt with, I don't believe, has that kind of audacity to say, yo, Sean, check this out. I couldn't even, no honey probably wouldn't even say to me, yo, Sean, I went to the supermarket and bought you some Fruit Loops instead of Frosted Flakes, or I went in, they was giving away leases on BMWs for no money down, you know, and I went and did one for you. Come on, man. Without you knowing, come on, man. Keep that in mind. Now, Tammy Cowins never performs. Y'all got to listen to what I'm saying, right? She never busts one Hispanic. She never, and she says in here that every time she was to go, they would tell her, yo, go meet with, pick up money from this Hispanic or pick up drugs from this Hispanic. It would always fall apart at the last minute. And it never happened. So what they told her she was going to be doing never happened. But yet they still using her. Why? Why? Right? And for who? Right? If her cooperation, if her being an informant is straight up and down like 6 o'clock, right? Why not really put her on some cases, on some real Hispanics, or put her on other cases not involving Big Meech? Why? Now, Cuffy's attorney asked, okay, in 2011, you had already met and knew Demetrius Flannery. Is that a true statement? She says yes. In 2011, you still held Mr. Flannery's power of attorney. That is correct? She says that is correct. And you also said that you held his lifeline. And she says creative control, life rights. And could you tell me what that means? This is Tammy Cowins. So basically it means that because of the Son of Sam law, he doesn't fall under that, meaning that there was no heinous crimes of Big Meech because there was no murder. It was just a CCE, a corporate criminal enterprise. So therefore, he or whoever he assigned his rights to could benefit from a film being made. As opposed to, example, Frank Lucas. Frank Lucas couldn't benefit because there was murders involved. So Cuffy's attorney asked her, So if this life story was told only Mr. Flannery, that he could have received benefit from it, right? Right? It says it. It says it. Meech could have received benefit from his life story if he would have waited till he got out. He could have never dealt with this girl, never got involved with Cuffy, never got involved with SWAT. He could have waited and told his story when he got out, because there was no murders involved in this case. So if this life story was told on Mr. Flannery, he could have received the benefit from it, right? Instead of Tammy saying like, yeah, if he didn't give it to me, if he would have waited till he got out, right? She's real smart. If he would have waited till he got out, she says, no, he couldn't receive any. I would, because I would be the one with the creative control. Correct? She says, exactly. Okay. And this is when Cuffy comes in. When Cuffy, so let's see how Cuffy meets up with her. Because Cuffy initially reached out to her to talk about the movie. Cuffy wanted the movie rights. And this other dude that was down with Cuffy was stepping to Tammy, trying to bully her out of the movie rights. You understand? And that's when she went to Jack Harvey and she went to Chroma and told him, and that's when the whole protective order came. So that's my point. If Meech, if he would have waited, if Demetrius Flannery, a big Meech, would have waited, he could have got out of prison and sold his own movie rights to 50 Cent and maintained publishing, executive producership, creative control, and he could have got all of the money himself. Right? And none of this with Suarez, Cuffy, Tammy Cowins, none of this would have came up if he would have just chilled, did his 30 ball, and chilled and did his 30 ball and came home. Right? But Tammy Cowins, ends up with Meech's power of attorney and life rights for no compensation. Like, he just gave it to her on the strength, like, yo, that's you, man. From the heart, man. You could keep that. I woke up today, my coffee was money. You understand? I jerked off last night. I had a good one. You understand? Chicken day was money on Thursday. I'm just going to give you my life rights, power of attorney, man. Do you, and I'm going to chill here and do this 30. What was Meech's compensation for giving her power of attorney and his life rights that he could have kept himself if he would have waited and did the time? That's key. That's key. So, in regards to your first conversation, Mr. Gatlin, now Mr. Gatlin really wanted to become involved in making the movie. Is that a fair statement? That's the lawyer. That is a fair statement in the beginning, correct? Okay. Did Mr. Gatlin have any money? She says, no, none of my knowledge. So the question becomes, how did Cuffy get her number? Hey Cuffy, I sent a DM to your daughter or whoever runs that Instagram page. Cuffy's still a legend, St. Louis legend. Call me, Cuffy, and I want to get you on the phone and have you talk about this and give your side of the story. I'll send you money. I'll put some money on your books to pay for the phone call. But I'm inviting you to come on my platform and tell your side of the story. Big Meech, the same offer to you. I'll come down to Florida by myself. No static. Me and you sit down and you answer some of these questions, man, to clear this up, because Meech, this ain't no good, man. This ain't no good, man. So you're welcome. You understand? Open access to my platform. I don't want to get you in trouble with the PO and, you know what I'm saying, and violate, you know, your paper that you on. But we could either do it Zoom or I can come down to Florida. I fly down on my nickel and we can meet face to face. I come by myself. You understand? And we could talk about it. So the question becomes, how did Cuffy get her number? Right? How did Cuffy get her number? How did Suarez get Tammy's number? All right, so I want to fast forward a little bit. So I think Tammy Cowins got over like $212,000 in compensation from Keith Croman for this case, right? So let me read this part to you, then I'm gonna shut it down. I received for the first time yesterday. So Cuffy's lawyer is asking her about the money she made from the case. This is her answer. I received for the first time yesterday, or I think it was yesterday, a breakdown itemization of all the fees that I supposedly received. A year and a half after talking, when I first talked to Jack Harvey, he told me that you should be filing taxes. I contacted my CPA and an attorney for IRS in regards to the $80,000 and $50,000 odd dollar payment. I have been asking the government for over a year and a half to provide me with what I just got yesterday so that I can pay taxes, because they are saying it's a reward for 80 and 50, but there was work involved with that. You know, so first the money she got, she didn't pay no taxes on it. Keith Croman told her that she didn't have to pay taxes on it, right? Because it was an award and it would blow her cover as an undercover informant. But come to find out, she did. And then she begins to explain that, you know, they were paying her rent, and I think she got up to like $212,000, man. And her thing was, she was telling, after, when she's getting all this money, this is what y'all got to keep in mind. She's getting all this money from Keith Croman, but she's not doing no work. She's not knocking off no Hispanic. She ain't doing nothing. And she's like, what am I getting this money for? You understand? So the thing is this. Now, after the St. Louis DEA makes a lot of the court documents, puts them online and makes them available to the public, and in some of these early documents they put up, her name is mentioned and her job and address. So she's getting calls from people telling her, we're going to kill you. So she's calling all around. Remember, we went over this yesterday. And the Cuffy's attorney asks her, when your phone call to Mr. Wallet came in, excuse me, strike that. When you made the phone call to Mr. Wallet, did you express concern that Big Meech set it up? She says, no, I was saying that the affidavit was saying that based on my recollection, the affidavit said that Demetrius not only set it up, but it was something else in the top paragraph that Demetrius, I don't really recall verbatim, but that was not accurate. Right, Mr. Flannery did not set up anything. Is that a fair statement, ma'am? She says that is correct. I thank you for the time. So she's done cross-examining Tammy Cowins. Now, the thing is this. After we know in the initial signed affidavit, signed under the penalty of perjury, she states that Big Meech set up the deal with Cuffy and Suarez. After she meets with Meech, and he says, I don't want my name in this mess because now people are threatening her life and Meech's safety in prison. She comes back and she changes her whole story. And she makes another affidavit. It's in here. She writes it. She handwrites it, right? But she never sends it in. She never submits it. She changes everything that she says. But remember, a sworn affidavit is punishable by imprisonment and fines or both because it's perjury. She changes everything, saying Big Meech didn't do it, but she never submits it to the government, signed. Right? She sends it all over. She faxes it. She emails it to everybody, but she never signs. She's just trying to muddy up the water. That's pretty much it for the day. Now, this is a pretty interesting part. After Cuffy's lawyer cross-examines Tammy Cowins, they break for recess for like 20 minutes to give one of the other attorneys, what's his name, Welby. Hold on a second. I got it. Stephen Welby, who's the attorney for Gibbs, who's one of the co-defendants with Cuffy. Give him 20 minutes to get ready, and then they're going to put Tammy back on the stand, and now he's going to cross-examine Tammy. I haven't read his cross-examination yet. I have that for you tomorrow. But when they break and go out into the hallway, the CSO, which I'm assuming is the, what's the CSO? Somebody put it in the comment section. Confidential source officer or whatever. I guess he's the one that looks over and protects the confidential sources when they're, on breaks or whatever, or at the courthouse. Gibbs, they say, who is one of the defendants with Cuffy, goes out into the hallway and tells some of the people that were in the courtroom before the judge cleared the courtroom, because Tammy Cowins always requests that the courtroom be cleared. So the judge clears the courtroom, but everybody outside chilling, waiting to see what's going on. So when they take the break, Gibbs goes outside and gives the names, allegedly, of CS1 and CS2. So now the people that were outside that couldn't see who they were, now they know. So the CSO, the confidential source officer, sees him do that, tells the U.S. attorney, say, yo, my man just came out and told the real names of the confidential sources. violating the protective order that he's under. Right? Now he's on bond. Gibbs is on bond. He out. He free. The CSO tells the U.S. attorney when the judge comes back, the U.S. attorney says, "Yo, Your Honor, Gibbs's bond needs to be revoked. He needs to be put on ankle monitoring because he violated the terms of the protective order because he just gave the names of the confidential sources to people outside the courtroom." His attorney stands up, offers a rebuttal, and says, "No, he didn't say that. He didn't say Tammy Cowins. He told him that main gal." Right? The judge don't believe it. She revokes his bond and puts him on an ankle monitoring because she don't want him being able to move around. Where they at, in Atlanta or in St. Louis? She don't want them to be able to move around. I think this is in St. Louis. Is it in St. Louis? Yeah, it's in Missouri. It's in Missouri. So he got to stay at the crib. Yeah. Then the U.S. attorney, then after revoking Gibbs's bond, tells the judge that Cuffy put an Instagram post up threatening Tammy Cowins, which was a violation of his protective order. But being that he's already in custody, the U.S. attorney requested that he have no more, they take away his phone privileges indefinitely, except to be able to call his legal counsel, his attorney. And the judge does that for as long as the Franks hearing is going on. So this is a pretty serious case, man. But y'all heard everything. I'm not gonna reiterate what I said. I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'll have the other part tomorrow. Sean G. Peace. Oh yeah, go follow me on my Instagram. The podcast was sold. Peace.